databases, and the idea of being able to have data stored in a database. If you're not familiar with databases, that's okay. There's probably at this point in your life a reason why you have decided to not get involved in databases. Luckily for you, or I guess for us, I'm pretty good with databases, and I've been doing them for quite a while now. And one of the ways that I usually will teach this is to make it a little bit easier for us to kind of go in and make sure everybody's on the same page. Is usually there's this thing that's called a DBMS, and that is a database management system. And so the database management system, the DBMS, usually will run on top of the database. And why is that important? Well, it's important because whenever you're going through and actually managing the data, it's important for you to understand what that data looks like. Let me give you an example here of some things. So we have this tool that is called the EMAS simulator. Right, so this is a tool called the EMAS simulator, and we started building this back in 2016, and so for the past 8 years we've been selling this product to a bunch of defense industrial base as well as the federal government. And so what we can do is we'll go in and I'll log in here. To the system. And when I log in, it's down here on this screen, stand by. When I log into the system, it has a whole bunch of things that are available. So I can come in, and if you've ever used EMAS before, anybody ever used EMAS? Let me just ask that in chat. Anybody ever used EMAS before? Okay. All right. So if you haven't used EMAS before, that's fine. So this is the Enterprise Mission Assurance Software System or Security System. But this is used by the DoD for any system that's seeking to get an ATO. So if you're going through the RMF process with a system, it's likely that you're going to be putting stuff into EMAS. And so what we've done is we built this simulator. We started it for training purposes, and there's a reason why I'm showing you this. So just bear with me. If you've never, just make sure you're paying attention here, okay? So check it out. In here, you can go in, and if I go back to the home, I can go in and actually, create new systems. I can register new systems. I can import new systems and do a whole bunch of other stuff. For our purposes here, I'm just going to, bring up an existing system here. And this one is the Terminator drone. So in here, this system is identified in a way that has some basic identification information. And over here, this system says that for our CyberProtex way that we coded here, we are calling this system ID number 99, right? So check it out. So this is CyberProtex, emas.cyberprotex.com. So there is a database management system that is called PHP MyAdmin, and I just put that into the chat window. So this is PHP MyAdmin, and if you have never used this before, this gives us the WYSIWYG environment, the WYSIWYG, right? That's the what you see is what you get, the WYSIWYG. it shows you in a way that's meaningful that allows us to go in and actually administer the database. And so instead of us having to go in, like Lucy said in her comments there, instead of us having to go in and remember the alien language of structured query language, what we can do is the little cylinders over here are the databases. You can see them over on the left-hand side. What I would do is I expand one of the databases. Inside of the databases are all of the tables. All of the tables. And so let me just make sure here. Let me make sure. So I'm going to call some people out. Maya, Mayor. Let's see. Hold on. Chris, Cynthia, Jessica. You guys, since you said that you were experts in risk management, security and risk management, I'm assuming that you have done things with EMAS before. And so what you would see here is there's a database, which we call EMAS. This is our proprietary, right? We own this stuff. And I am recording right now. So underneath here, this database, we have these tables. These are all tables underneath it, basically like big Excel spreadsheets. So the database has one database to many tables underneath it. If you've never done any software engineering, that's fine. Underneath it, one of them is the 853. We called it controls new because there was a recent publish. So underneath that, if you just kind of look at it, we have columns. It shows you all the columns in this database table. And if I was to just click on the table here, look at this. As you would imagine, if I just say, bring me back 500 of them, because I know there's more than 500 controls, right? I can bring back all of the data in our database table that we call, the database is called EMAS. We call the table 853 controls new. Check this out. Look at all of these controls that we have in here. And that's only 500 of them, right? It looks like it's paginated, so it tells us, you know, how many pages. There's only 2 pages, so there's less than 1,000. I'll go to page 2. They all have individual unique IDs. These controls do, okay? And so what we've done is we've slurped in all of these controls. Yeah, that's what the word I'm using there. We've taken all of these controls, and they're labeled just like every one of you guys knows the families of controls. I'm sure that you've seen them before. We put all of these controls in here with the intent that we're trying to mimic the actual EMAS system. So in addition to that, what we've done is we built out, and again, I'm trying to show you here because this is one of the most difficult things that people have trouble understanding is, you know, how databases work. And what I'm trying to do is just show you at a super high level how this works. And so underneath it here, we actually will have CCIs, you know, different artifact system, the assets of the system, different controls that we've applied specifically to that system, the system word, you know, overlays. These are all things that you guys are probably familiar with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the dashboard here, and I click on the dashboard table. Again, this is in my database management system here, which is software. In the database that we call EMAS, underneath it, I have this thing that's called system dashboard. And what I'll do is I'll go over here to structured query language. And if you recall, I'm going to pull this down here. So you can see system identification actually in the emas.cyberprotex.com. So we're running the database management system to build this dynamic software. So what I want to do here is in our dashboard, I want to figure out how I can bring back that record that is number 99. And look, I have an ID in here. And so the ID that I want to bring back is number 99. So check this out. What I do is I say where ID is equal to 99. And so I want to select all. Let me zoom in a little bit on that. Select all from system dashboard, because that's what I was just showing you in my database management system. Select all from system dashboard where ID is equal to 99. And then I'm just going to click Bill. So I would expect that only one record comes back, right? So you remember the name of it? The Terminator. So this particular one is something that is for what we said is the system owner is PEO Aviation, Program Executive Office Aviation. You know, and the ID is number 99. And so we have a record in here that is number 99 that when you come over here and look at it, let me just tile these right next to each other. And again, I'm just trying to, what's going to be the best way for me to show this without. All right, so check it out. So its ID is 99. The registration type, see that right there? System name, Terminator. System acronym is Terminator drone. That's what we called it. I'm just trying to be silly. So if I keep going over here, system owner, information system owner, PEO Aviation, release number. See, I mean, so pound for pound, this heavyweight champion of the world is matching up with each other. And then, you know, we also have some other data. It just keeps going over and over and over and over and over here for this particular system. But this primary key, this link right here, this ID that we have, this primary key is how we can have a unique value in our database table that allows us to, every time there's data about data, remember we talked about metadata before, every time that there's something about this system that we call Terminator drone, what we do is we uniquely identify it, kind of like a social security number to a person. We're identifying it in our system as number 99. And so anytime that somebody puts data in our tool over here for, you know, the controls, if there's, in this particular case, they don't have any controls, we could import controls. And as we would import controls for this Terminator drone, we would be able to see that there would be controls that would be added in here for this unique ID, this primary key for the Terminator drone, which is pretty cool, And there's a whole lot of stuff that's going on. I'm not denying that it's hard, but if you fundamentally understand that there is a database, and in this particular case, we're calling it EMS. I'm trying to give you something that most of the people in here would probably know. Underneath it here, there's a system dashboard. And in that system dashboard, there's a whole bunch of different systems that are added to it. And that systems are assigned a unique identifier. Very similar to actually how the actual EMS system works. And so at a super high level, when I talk about database management systems here, and going back to the PowerPoint slide, one of the most widely used ones that's out there is this one that's called PHP MyAdmin. Why is it one of the most widely used ones out there? Why? Well, Grandma always used to say, if it's free, it's for me, right? And so if it's free, we're going to use it. Just like Arnold says, if it bleeds, we can kill it. I think that was in The Predator. If it's free, it's for me. So if there's an open source piece of software that's out there that is awesome, we're going to use it, right? So if I was using Microsoft products, and so Microsoft SQL Server database, what I would do is I would use Microsoft SQL database management system. If I was using Oracle database, I would use Oracle database management system. And so what this database management, this concept is that the software, the database management system, the DBMS, DBMS sits on top of the database. And so for regular people like us, we don't have to do much in order to interact with the database, if that makes sense. And so I say that because there's a whole lot of things that we're about to get into. And I think that by me showing you it first in practice helps to kind of bring the, lead the horse to water here. So let's take a look. Inside of the database, which is usually denoted in a Visio diagram as a cylinder, inside of there, there's a whole bunch of things going on. The most important thing are these tables that I just showed you. The tables are like massive Excel spreadsheets that have rows and columns, and the columns have different names, and those names are meaningful to whoever the software engineer is that's using the data. We call those attributes or fields, and the columns, that is, are the attributes, and then the rows are called a record. In practice, we don't ever hear people calling them tuples. I think I may have heard it one time over the past 20 years, somebody actually calling it a tuple, and you know, they get that side eye in the meeting. You're just like, really, bro? Come on. We're all friends here. You don't need to be using that word. Really, it comes down to, you know, the attribute and the record. Okay, so an individual row that's associated to that ID, that one that I brought back, that one record that I brought back is the actual row. Okay, and so there's one row. So how we interface in these database management systems is by using this thing that's called a query. And in database, it's actually very straightforward with databases. Why do I say that? Well, because I've been doing it for a little while. But if you haven't done it before, that's okay. Check it out. Within databases, there's different operands that the queries only respond to. And so the most frequently used one is this thing that's called a select statement. And so what does that do? If you recall what I just showed you there back in the example here, I think I did see how it's a select. Well, what most database management systems will do is, if you kind of like what Lucy was saying, it's like a foreign language, right? Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it a long time, and I have to go look it up all the time. But if you don't remember, look, I just pushed this insert button. Now it wrote an insert statement for me. Holy cow, right? If I don't know how to write an insert statement, if I don't know how to write an update statement, I push this button, boom, it creates the update statement for me. If I don't know how to write a delete statement, I can push this delete statement, and it automatically would delete the or show me how to write the delete statement. And so this window that you see right here, this is kind of like in the database management system, a way that we interact with the database. And instead of it being more at a 10,000 foot view where we're just a user of the database, we can get down into the weeds and actually pull back very specific information depending on how much command we have of the SQL language. And if you're afraid of it, or you've never used it, or you have used it, you're like, yo, that ain't for me. I hear you. And so oftentimes what I will do is, because I've slept since the last time I programmed structured query language, I go out to W3 Schools and have it remind me on how to do certain commands within the SQL language. And man, I got to tell you, it is a beautiful thing to be able to select, to insert, to update, and delete. And you know, when we interact with that, those tables, it does become quite meaningful. So the four primary operands, quote unquote operands, that are using queries is select, insert, update, and delete. Those are the four primary operands. If you have never seen it before, then it can be quite daunting. I totally agree with that. And you know, I would encourage you to you know, think about that in a way that's meaningful, because you know what we want to do is we want to make sure that you understand it, right? So the last thing on here that I want to make sure that you understand is this concept of the view down here at the bottom, this guy down here. Now, we talked about this on the first day, and I deliberately mentioned it to kind of throw the warning shot across the bow, because a lot of people conceptually don't understand that. But from a queries perspective, you can go in and select everything from the database. Like if you have access to write a query to a database, you can go in there and pull back all of the data. Well, the view, if you recall, the view is kind of like a peephole, where you're looking out of the peephole and you can see just a little tiny bit of what is in front of you. And so oftentimes what I'll do is I'll talk about how this view is kind of like a peephole, where essentially, you know, if you have a door, typically doors have these little peepholes that give you a little bit of information about who is at your door, where if you're quiet enough, they won't know that you're there. But with the view, what we can do is we can set boundaries with what data we provide back to them. Remember how we talked about the data owner earlier on the week, and you know, I got into the different views for HR, for IT, for finance, for physical security. Each one of those, you know, each one of those organizational units within your company, HR, IT, finance, and physical security, would all be privy to seeing different information. One of those would be responsible as the authoritative source. And so whoever is typically the authoritative source is usually the data owner. And so the data owner would say, yo, create a view or this little peephole. Instead of giving people carte blanche access to all the data in the database, it would be a little peephole of data instead of the whole kit and caboodle.